If you live near the St. Louis area, you have probably heard of this theme park called Six Flags St. Louis. This is one of the mid-tier Six Flags parks, but they have some rides that the Six Flags Corporation could clear out for future park investments. One of the outdated rides at the park is this roller coaster called Ninja. This is an old Vekoma Looper that originally started at the 1986 World's Fair in Vancouver, Canada. Then as soon as that ended during the end of the 1986 season, it was moved to Six Flags St. Louis for the 1989 season, and this coaster isn't that great. It was known for causing a lot of headbanging with the poor layout, so let's say the ride gets torn down altogether. So what do you replace it with? And that is what this video is about. So I came up with a few different coaster models that would be great successors to Ninja, the first of which is a mock multi-launch. I'm thinking of something like Copyright Strike, but a little bit more compact. And this would be a really cool addition for Six Flags St. Louis. It would introduce new inversions into the park, and it would give them another launch coaster since the park's only launch coaster is with Mr. Freeze. And to keep it different enough, it's going to feature a full circle layout instead of a shuttle layout. And I actually thought of two other models that would be really good replacements, but those were pretty similar to Mr. Freeze. So I'm keeping the park's lineup diverse. It would also be a crowd pleaser as well. Copyright Strike was so popular over at Carowinds, and Six Flags St. Louis needs a modern thrill coaster. That's the biggest coaster gap. But another model that will be a really cool addition here is the Gerstauer Infinity Coaster. I always keep throwing these infinity coasters into these types of videos, but something like Fury over at Bobbejaanland would be so cool here. It doesn't take up too much space, and it's a completely different take from Mr. Freeze. And if you're curious, Adventureland in Iowa is located a measly 5.5 hours away from Six Flags St. Louis, and that's the closest infinity coaster you got with Monster. So I say that's far away enough. And you can't forget to throw on a light package. That's the cherry on top, and it would make the park a party at night. I really like this idea. But if they did not want to go with an infinity coaster, there's always the Eurofighter. If the park thinks that an infinity coaster is too expensive or it's not going to work, they can scale it down to a Eurofighter. Maybe something like Vertica over in France would be amazing here, or an extended version of Tantrum over at Darien Lake. We know Six Flags have worked with Gerstauer before with Tantrum, but they did swear off working with them after the new Texas Giant fiasco. But this checks the box of being a new modern high thrill coaster, and it can have a layout with many inversions and maybe even a banana roll to make the layout a little bit more wacky. And it can have comfortable lap bars or padded over the shoulder restraints. I wouldn't mind this addition, but let's turn down the intensity with a Gravity Group family wooden coaster. If the park was in the mood to get another wooden coaster, this is their best choice. We know that they have 3 different Woodies, and this would make it 4, but I'm thinking of something like Timber at Waliburro and Alps coming here. But if they were extra crazy, they could add a spike like Switchback over at ZDTs, and that would be an amazing marketing opportunity. But again, the park already has a spike with Mr. Freeze, but that one goes backwards, and this one goes forwards, but that's me being nitpicky. It would also be a great stepping stone coaster from the milder coasters to the wilder coasters. I love this idea, but let's go back to the steel coasters with an Intamin straddle coaster. This would not be a bad addition to Six Flags St. Louis, and since the corporation is working with Intamin with the recently opened Georgia Gold Rusher at Six Flags over Georgia and the upcoming Quantum Accelerator at Six Flags New England, it would be a possibility. The closest straddle coaster you got is with Wavebreaker, which is 13.5 hours away from Six Flags St. Louis, so they can get away with it. And it's a new type of model to the Midwest, but I'm referring to the straddle coasters that are like Yukon Quad at La Paul or Juvalin at Drew Summerland. But if they wanted to add a clone of Juvalin, well, too bad, it's too long to fit. But if they squeeze it in with a little less track length, that will be the best case scenario, and this would be a great addition to Six Flags St. Louis and the rest of these models. So I want to hear from you guys. What do you want to replace Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. Our goal for 2025 is to hit 700 subscribers before 2026, and it's up to you if you want to support us. But you can expect a new video coming out in the next 5 days, so make sure to keep that adrenaline pumping, and thanks for watching.